Iran's energy backbone has been shattered.
Israel targeting Iran's largest natural gas field.
The Israeli military says that it has launched more attacks into northern Iran.
The US and Israel just turned their sights on the one target that could actually break the regime: South Pars. This massive offshore complex isn't just another oil or gas site, it's the heart of Iran's entire economy. And right now, it's on fire. To the average person, South Pars might sound like just another patch of water in the Persian Gulf, but this field, shared with Qatar's North Dome, holds an estimated 1,800 trillion cubic feet of gas and 50 billion barrels of condensate. Iran's portion alone accounts for 70 to 80% of the country's total natural gas production. Before the strikes, it was pumping a record 730 million cubic meters of rich gas every single day. That's the fuel that powers Iran's electricity, its petrochemical plants, and even 40% of its gasoline. Keep every single one of these numbers in mind. They'll be very important later. For decades, South Pars has been Iran's crown jewel. Pipelines run from the offshore platforms straight to the giant processing plants at Asaluya on the mainland. Those plants turn raw, sour gas into export-ready product. Condensate that comes with it is worth billions on the global market. Throw in the fact that Iran still pumps roughly 3.3 million barrels per day of crude and liquids, and you understand why this one field keeps the entire regime alive. The US and Israel knew it too. On the night of March 17th, the hammer dropped. US President Donald Trump took to Truth Social and declared it in his usual blunt style. Moments ago, at my direction, United States and Israeli forces executed precision strikes that have totally obliterated key military and energy targets inside Iran's crown jewel, South Pars. We hit the gas treatment facilities hard. He added that the strikes were focused on the processing plants feeding phases 3 through 6, while leaving the main crude export lines untouched for now. As Bloomberg and Reuters both reported within hours, at least 4 major gas treatment facilities in Asaluye were rocked by drones and missiles. Fires broke out across the complex. Thick black smoke could be seen for miles. Iran's state media tried to downplay it, claiming limited damage and no significant casualties among workers. The deputy oil minister even insisted production would resume within days. But satellite images and thermal data tell a different story. The backbone of Iran's gas output has been cracked. Let's home in on what this actually means for the regime's wallet. South Pars isn't just gas, it's leverage and it's cash. Iran sits on roughly 10% of the world's proven oil reserves and 15% of its gas. But because of sanctions, almost everything flows through a handful of choke points. And right now, the Strait of Hormuz, which carries about 20% of all global oil trade, is the only real exit door. Even after the strikes, Iran is still managing to load tankers. Reuters tracking shows they're pushing between 1.5 and 1.6 million barrels of crude per day onto ships heading straight to China, their biggest and almost only customer. Before the war, Iran was already selling at a discount of around $9 below the Brent benchmark. But here's where things get crazy. With global prices exploding, that discount actually works in Iran's favor in the short term. Brent crude jumped 3.8% in a single session after the South Pars and Ras Laffan hits, briefly topping $114 per barrel, the highest since the early days of the Ukraine war. Some quick math. At current levels, even with the discount, Iran is pulling in roughly $140 million every single day from China alone. Expand that across a full year, and we're talking well over $50 billion in revenue, the vast majority of which still flows through infrastructure tied directly to South Pars and the Gulf terminals. That is the regime's true lifeline. But the retaliation came fast and ugly. Iran didn't just sit there and bleed. Within 48 hours, Iranian missiles slammed into Qatar's Ras Laffan industrial city, home to the world's largest LNG export complex. Qatar Energy declared force majeure and shut down production. The plant that used to supply 20% of global LNG is now burning. Europe and Asia woke up to natural gas prices spiking 6 to 10% overnight. Saudi Arabia had to shut units at its Ras Tanura refinery after drone strikes. The entire Gulf energy map is on fire. Trump made the threat crystal clear in the same Truth Social post. Should Iran or anyone else interfere with the free and safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, I will immediately reconsider my decision and massively blow up the remaining energy infrastructure. He even added, with classic flair, "Our weapons are the most powerful in history, but for reasons of decency, I have held back. That can change in a heartbeat." And that's exactly what this is about: leverage. The US and Israel didn't wipe out the entire field because South Pars still gives them a trump card, pun intended. As long as the oil and gas keep flowing at these sky-high prices, the regime gets a temporary cash injection. The moment Iran tries to close the strait or mine the shipping lanes again, Trump has already promised to finish the job. Right now, the markets are panicking, for good reason. The Guardian and Financial Times both report that global oil prices have climbed another 1.8% since the South Pars strikes, pushing Brent past the $114 mark again. Shipping companies are rerouting away from Hormuz, adding weeks to journeys and billions to costs. Europe is bracing for winter gas shortages. China is quietly stockpiling while still buying Iran's discounted barrels. Iran, meanwhile, is doing what it always does, playing both sides. State media claims routine operations continue at South Pars. In reality, analysts say full recovery could take years without Western technology. The regime is using this crisis to squeeze every last dollar out of its remaining exports while daring the US to hit harder. So what happens next? Trump has already floated just-for-fun strikes on the remaining facilities if Iran keeps playing games in the Strait. The Marines and the USS Tripoli are already steaming toward the region. South Pars has been set up as the perfect pressure point. Destroy it completely, and Iran loses its main revenue stream. Leave it hanging, and the regime stays on life support, but only as long as Washington allows. The attacks on Iran's energy infrastructure have already sent oil and gas prices into the stratosphere, and the worst may still be coming. What happens if the next strike takes out the export jetties for good, or if Iran finally tries to shut the strait? Find out what the US is planning for the next phase of Operation Epic Fury in our next video. And if you're still watching, thank you. Drop a like if you want more on the energy war, subscribe for weekly updates, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there.